So last night, Brad McElhinny and I, also Mike Nolting from WAJR, went to a gathering of the Move West Virginia Forward Political Action Committee at Lakeview in Morgantown, put together by David McCormick. And gosh, there was probably 150 people there. And this is a political action committee that was formed by McCormick and some other folks to raise money to focus on economic and business issues in the legislature that affect north central West Virginia. What was really interesting about this was all four of the Republican gubernatorial candidates were there. Talking Chris Miller, Patrick Morrissey, Moore Capito, and Mac Warner were all there. And they all got a chance to speak. Brad McElhinny joins me here in the studio. Brad, good morning. And so we sat there and listened to him last night. What was your takeaway about the event, first of all?
Oh, hi. Surprised to see you here today. Good morning. It was a great event, and there were political figures, particularly from across the north central region of the state, and the region itself got a lot of shout outs.
Yeah.
Some issues with the highways that are particular to this region that these candidates addressed. So it served that purpose. And, if I were a casual audience member, it also provided a great service in the sense that you could shake the hand of any of these four candidates, have a quick conversation, get the vibe, develop a personal feeling that then you might pass on to your friends and neighbors. That's how grassroots works.
Yeah.
We were probably judging it in a bit of a different way. Hoppy and Brad want to hear the 5-point plan, but at this point, October, when we're facing a May primary election, it's getting to know you. It's very introductory, and the presentations by these candidates were very biographical. So for Morrissey, Patrick Morrissey, it was, I've been fighting for you in the Attorney General's office, and how I would translate that into the role as the state's chief executive. For Mac Warner, it was his history of military service and the way he has approached the job as Secretary of State and how that might translate into being governor. For Moore Capito, it's been legislative service and family legacy. And then for Chris Miller, who's a bit of a newcomer on this stage, he is the son of a U.S. Congresswoman, Carol Miller, but isn't known to West Virginians in that capacity, but has his own history as in the business world as an auto dealer. So Hoppy and Brad might have been listening for the 5-point plan, but we are weird audience members, and the rest were trying to I think, assess whether there was a connection and who might they tell their friends and family about.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, because again, we're sort of too close to it, so we're listening for specific things. And there are a couple specifics in there, but I think for most people, whether it's that gathering last night or in the campaign, it's okay, there's this big governor's race, and I know about some of these people for a variety of reasons, but who are they exactly? And last night, for those folks who were there, it was an excellent opportunity to at least say, oh, okay, now I can put a face with a name, and now I know what they sound like and how they conduct themselves in front of an audience. And I would imagine this is the kind of thing, Brad, that is going on all across the state right now. Not all four of them necessarily being together, that's pretty rare, but just that as each of these candidates campaign, it is an introductory role that they are in. Before you can convince people to vote for you, you got to tell them who you are and why you're motivated, and deal with it on a more general way than come out and say, here's my 5-point plan, I think.
Yeah, and I was listening for if I were someone in the audience, if I were not Brad, how would I differentiate among four candidates to decide how to responsibly cast my ballot in whatever it is, 6 months? And the biography is part of it.
Yep.
Do they have relevant experience that they can bring to a very responsible, important role as chief executive? And then vibe, how do they speak? How do they present themselves? What is their posture? Do they connect? And I would like to hear more from the people in the audience. I assume that is a different interpretation for everyone who was there. The polls would show you that at the moment it's mostly a race between Morrissey and Moore Capito, but Mac Warner and Chris Miller still have time. They still have significant resources and can get out to events like these and begin to gather momentum.
Yeah. And also because of the format last night where each of the four got 10 to 12 minutes to talk about themselves or what they would do as chief executive, and then there was a couple of questions after that about economic development and roads, I think. So there wasn't really much compare and contrast. So it was pretty genteel. I mean, someone might say, I have the experience as, let's say, the Attorney General. I've done these things. I'm not going to be new on the job. So that's kind of like a indirect comparison to some other people. You think of a Chris Miller who's not run for office yet. But there wasn't any. It was pretty, again, genteel. There wasn't any, well, I did this, but More Capito thinks this, or Chris Miller thinks this, or Mac Warner or Patrick Morrissey says this. So there wasn't that kind of give and take in it. It was very, very gentlemanly, if you will.
No one called anyone Donald Duck. No one said, I get stupider every time I listen to you.
No one.
It was, at this point, very civil. People ask for a civil political atmosphere, and this was that. But there wasn't a lot of, well, you're exaggerating. There was not a lot of, you actually are woke. I will defend against the wokes.
Yep.
So, we're going to get to the point where there is a little more crossfire, and not only will it generate headlines, but it will help with this sort of contrasting that we have to do. They're each saying that they are the conservatives' choice.
Yes.
All of them,
yes.
Down the line. But, in what way are there differences within that spectrum? And we're going to have to explore that as time goes by.
Yeah. So the campaign, I was talking with the candidates last night, and I was telling them, we were talking about debates and such, and we're trying to put one together. I said, look, the race is underway. It is. And these candidates are already traveling all across the state, and so it's underway. And maybe many West Virginians aren't thinking about it that much, but it's clear it's underway in terms of candidates getting out there, because you don't have somebody who's extremely well known like Governor Justice or Joe Manchin, anybody like that. So it is underway and it's on. So there's that. Also, just one other point, and this is kind of regional, is that and this was made to me last night, and I hadn't really thought about it that way, is that I've lived in Morgantown, the greater Morgantown area, since I was in school here. And the politics here are a little different than other parts of the state. And like Dave McCormick, who's from Logan County, and where in southern West Virginia, politics is almost a way of life. And people are very, very tuned in to the political factions and politics, and it's a big deal, almost in a celebratory way. And having covered politics in north central West Virginia, sometimes it's just not, it doesn't have the same level of emotion for everybody. Now, I'm not sure exactly why that is. Maybe WVU sort of sucks some of the energy out of that. But this was McCormick bringing that kind of southern West Virginia passion about politics to north central West Virginia, with the argument that here's this growing area that this PAC wants some influence in how policy is created and conducted in Charleston. Your thoughts?
As you said that, it was a Morgantown and north central West Virginia focused event, but there is a pretty good degree of regionality among these candidates. Morrissey played up his connections to the Eastern Panhandle, which is a strong political environment in West Virginia at this point. More Capito from the Charleston area, but with his historic lineage in the Northern Panhandle. Mac Warner from the area.
Yeah.
And then Chris Miller, mostly known in the Huntington area. So for each of these guys, in many ways, although Morrissey is a 3-term Attorney General and Mac Warner is a 2-term Secretary of State, it still was fairly introductory to this audience and trying to engage them, those who attended, to literally win their vote for a higher stage for the chief executive. And, I thought it was a good introduction by everybody.
It was an interesting point where, and each of them knew the audience and sort of spoke specifically to that. At one point, Patrick Morrissey said, if I'm elected, I'll have a deputy highway superintendent focused only on highway issues in high traffic areas. Well, that's that's Morgantown, and one of the big issues last night was the roads in north central West Virginia. More roads for areas that are growing industrially, fixing roads that are in bad shape. I mean, roads was a major concern of this PAC last night.
Mm-hmm. And I think it was Moore Capito who said he would have a representative of the governor's office in the Morgantown area. So sort of a satellite office for Morgantown. So anyway, they did address specifically Morgantown area issues, and it was clear they were playing to the audience.
All right, Brad McElhinny, MetroNews Statewide Correspondent.